I am Bryce Detroit.
And I'm Anya Sirota.
We're going to start our life like this, y'all. When I say mother, you say ship. Mother, ship. Mother, ship. That's what's up. Let's get it going.
Okay. We've been working on a project in the North End. It's a community in Detroit, Michigan. And it's a place that you could say is missing a little bit of its building fabric, maybe 70%, which speaks to a kind of difficult economic situation that's lasted for an expanded amount of time. And in this context, however, there are certain buildings that remain that are incredibly important in the legacy of music in America, such as the Phillips Lounge.
Absolutely. One of the things that is neglected in the dominant narrative is the rich cultural legacy and history that exists in a lot of Detroit communities, in particular our North End, being a major artery for the evolution of funk and blues music as represented through the Phelps Lounge and other bars as Apex Bar. George Clinton actually got his start and became Dr. Funkenstein and created Parliament Funkenstein on Oakland Avenue in the North End at Phelps Lounge. Bootsy Collins ended up recording 10 years later at a recording studio in the North End, as well as legendary R&B and soul singers like Betty LaVette, not only being staples in the North End community's venues, but actually coming from the community itself. So boom, what do I do? I am a record producer as well as a music and culture curator for Detroit African Music Institution.
And I'm an architect and an urbanist, and together we've been working on a project to use design as a tool for broadcast. So we've built a nomadic urban marker. It sort of channels an African diasporic aesthetic to tell the story of a narrative, or a narrative about a place that normally doesn't get included.
And it's also a super cool music vehicle / mobile DJ booth, which we use to transport community artists and local living legends to exceptional places throughout Detroit to broadcast our narrative.
And the aesthetic is a kind of Afro-futurist bling where we're using car customization techniques, gold vinyl, dichroic film.
Absolutely, and speaking to design, our unique design process starts with the people and the place and uplifting their identities and narratives first. It just so happens that some of the beautiful people in my community are legendary funk and blues masters. It's great.
Lucky for you.
Lucky for us.
But the idea is, how do you tell the story without lament or nostalgia? No historical plaques. So also, the question is, how do you make it fly? The construction process is pretty rudimentary. 16 aluminum panels, they pack up, they go flat, they fit in a pickup truck, and then when you get them to the site, you just unpack it, you use one wrench and a bucket of screws, with however many people are available to help you.
Absolutely. To launch the Mothership, we brought together 12 alumni members of Parliament Funkadelic, which spanned 4 generations of funk history, for an unprecedented concert in an unmarked garage in our neighborhood that held 700 people, free concert with no promotion, all coming from the community. Speaking about interaction.
People showed up with their record albums, wearing outfits from the period, but most importantly, there was this amazing auratic quality in an unmarked garage in a neighborhood that seemed to have no assets if you just drove through and didn't notice the incredible history associated with the place.
This is an example of what it looks like when a community is celebrating themselves and their own cultural narratives.
So when the Mothership isn't flying, it's stationed at this garage. People drop by, they take photos of themselves inside the ship. People have asked to get married in it. And the story has transmitted across boundaries. Publications all over the world have featured this narrative.
Absolutely. And speaking of transport, these are examples of how we are transporting to many different locations throughout Michigan, taking community artists to places where their music and their narratives have never been before.
So
Excellent.
this, for us, is a story about collaboration and capacity building in unprecedented ways.
Absolutely. Every neighborhood has stories to tell, and we have a broadcast tool for it.
Excellent. Thank you.
Thanks a lot.
Stephen.
How did you generate the funding for this?
This is funded through Art Place America and the Night Arts Foundation.
And what exactly are the materials?
The materials?
Yeah.
We're using aluminum paneling system with gold vinyl, some tubes, some plastic,
Yeah.
dichroic film, very straightforward.
Very light, very easy to assemble. Think IKEA.
And who built it?
It was designed by a group of architects. It was fabricated at the University of Michigan, but every time we launch it, it's built by community members on site.
What kind of permits do you have to get for this nomadic piece? Is this an obstacle at any time?
To be perfectly frank, in Detroit, this is not an obstacle.
Yeah.
There's a lot of open space.
Yeah.
We didn't get any permits, but the permitting office was delighted to see it go up.
Great.
What do you envision as the lifespan of the project?
This project continues to evolve. Boom. For the first 18 months of us working together, that was looked at as phase one, which is a catalytic phase. Since then, we've catalyzed many different initiatives, one being Detroit African Music Institution, another being the free market swap. So using the Mothership as a vehicle to transport and broadcast not only musical narratives, but the new economy narratives that are coming from the North End as well.
If I could just add to that, it was a kind of prototype for us as well. So it was a proof of concept. If you drove through this neighborhood, you'd say there isn't an audience, there isn't enough interest to create scenarios like this. With the Mothership, we were able to say, look, you can take an empty lot, bring 700 people together, and they're going to have a collective experience. So with that knowledge base, now we're looking at ways to make a more permanent cultural intervention in the neighborhood. And also, we're trying to use this prototype as a way to think about other communities and harnessing those local narratives to create markers as ways to instigate cultural activity.
So you've talked a little bit about what might come next with other communities. Could you expand on that a little bit? Where could this go? Might you turn this into a kit, for instance, so other communities around the world can do it? Do you have other ideas?
Okay, now the thing that's really unique about the Mothership is that it's uplifting a cultural narrative from the North End. The model that we're looking to establish with this kind of a project is start with the people, the legacy of your community, and then create beautiful cultural markers that symbolize that and can be used to spark other conversation and continue to broadcast the narrative.
Yeah, so probably if we moved to a different community, there would be an entirely different marker that would be necessary to tell an alternate story.
And do you think you'd kind of share your learnings or be able to wrap that up so that other communities can kind of learn from that?
Absolutely, because in Detroit, one of the major issues, well, to me, as a resident, a major issue is underserved narratives coming from the communities. So, absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
I don't have a question more than a comment. I think what's really beautiful is those pictures you showed us seem sort of desolate, and I think when we view those, it seems quiet. And I really love the idea of sort of bringing sound back to those places and amplifying voices. I think that's really, really important and moving. And I think, as Ali said, there are a lot of other communities where I think that would be beneficial.
Thanks.
Thank you very much.
Where's the power and the equipment come from for the events?
Well, we have generators on deck. Being that this is a prototype, we really made it as light as possible to be able to be as portable and mobile as possible. And then we do partner with community members to have generators and to have PA systems when we're transporting it, as well as we have.
And excellent. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.